I was reading a book the other day, and while I was reading, I came across something extraordinary, and I want to share that something with you right now. The book I was reading is Niko, and if you haven't read it, I really encourage you to, and do it fast because, spoiler alert, I'm about to spoil the whole plot. So as I'm doing this, I want you to pay special attention to Niko's relationships, and in specific, his relationship to his dad. So Niko is the story of a boy living in Beirut, Lebanon, in the height of its 1975 civil war. The book starts off very happy despite its setting. There's Niko, age 6, his mom, and his dad, Antoine, who recently lost his job and is now spending his time at home with Niko. There's a little thing they do where Antoine will ask Niko the same questions every day. What's your name? What's your age? And what do you really want to be doing right now? So it's very cute. It's very heartwarming. And then Niko's mother dies, and him and his father have to flee the country. These two things have the potential to essentially destroy Niko, but they don't. And they don't because of his dad. As long as he's with his dad, he can deal with anything life throws at him. There's even a quote here. To Niko, his father may as well be a god. But this changes after a few weeks. Antoine decides to send Niko to live with his aunt and uncle in Canada so that he can get an education and live a better life. He says that he'll follow later if he can find a way. Now this change is not appreciated by Niko. In fact, Niko hates his aunt and uncle. In fact, Niko doesn't want an education. In fact, Niko listens to Casey Kasem alone in his room on the radio every Sunday, all because he has a fatherly voice and signs off with your best friend, his only friend. And although there's a brief period where Sammy, his uncle, tries to connect with him through science and schoolwork, and it looks like he's finally going to be happy, it doesn't work out. Over the next few years, Niko becomes unsure. He shoplifts, he smokes a ton of weed with his terrible girlfriend. He doesn't know what he wants, but he knows that he hates his life. And when he accidentally gets his girlfriend pregnant and thinks, oh shit, he actually tracks down his dad, who is now an amnesiac living in Chile, long story, steals a bunch of money and flies down there to see him to try and find some of that stability that he's lost. And what he finds is that they're the same. They're both dads, or potential dads in Niko's case, who left their kids to fend for themselves in a harsh and unforgiving world. They're people who could never even figure out their own lives. It's here that Niko realizes that to truly grow, he has to do what he hasn't been able to do for 10 years. He has to let go of his dad. So he makes his peace and chooses to go back to his uncle and aunt in Canada. And it hurts, but it's the best choice for him. And that's the story. Now I'm going to tell you about something completely different and not related at all. By show of hands, who here has ever heard of Durkheim and his book, The Elementary Forms of Religious Life? Okay, good, no one. So I'm actually going to spoil 2 books for you tonight, but this one wasn't one you were going to read anyway. And I won't spoil it that much. First of all, The Elementary Forms is a book written by sociologist Emil Durkheim as a study of primitive religion. In it, he came up with an idea of what makes a religion, like the most fundamental aspects that all religions grow out of. And from that, he came up with a number of small theories surrounding religious societies and their gods. Number 1, religious societies have rites, things that they do repeatedly to separate the special stuff from the everyday stuff. The thing is, you have to keep doing these rites. You have to keep doing these rites to keep them sacred, like going to church every Sunday. Number 2, a goddess society apotheosized or glorified to the divine to the point of being godly. So if my society has certain values like working hard or helping others, those will be reflected in my gods. Number 3, a believer who has communicated with their God is stronger. In Durkheim's words, he feels within him more force, either to endure the trials of existence or to conquer them. The final point Durkheim makes, and one of his more controversial ideas, is the cult of the individual. And this is the idea that society will eventually ditch religion and gods to instead worship the individual, putting their own needs above the demands of any religion. People will turn to science to answer their questions. Durkheim believed that science was the one constant thing that is seldom wrong. And if you're paying attention, you may have started to put it together. Let's look at the elementary forms and some parts of Niko side by side. As you can see, we've got some rights, some similarities and glorification, feeling powerful after contact, but also missing that power. And something that looks a whole lot like the cult of the individual. Note how Niko chooses his own happiness and his scientific uncle in the end. Now you're probably asking, all right, cool, but what's the point? Well, when I first told you about Niko, it was an interesting coming-of-age story about a boy living in a war-torn city. But when you look deeper, look closer, look at it from an angle that has no business being there, you get something completely different. You get an outline of a Durkheimian religious society and their God, shown as a little boy's relationship with his father and how eventually both will come to an end. Same book, different story. Thank you for